Imagine a world where your ultimate loyalty was demanded not by family, but by the state. For nearly 200 years, this was the stark reality for the formidable soldiers of the Roman Empire. From the reign of Augustus, the very foundation of Rome's military might, its legionaries, were forbidden from marrying. This wasn't a mere inconvenience. It was a profound societal decree, shaping lives, destinies, and the very fabric of the empire. Why would a power as pragmatic as Rome impose such a ban? What were the hidden costs, the untold stories, and the ultimate reasons behind this astonishing prohibition? To understand the ban, we must first grasp the ideal Roman legionary. These were not conscripted farmers serving temporary terms. By the time of Augustus, they were hardened professionals, signing up for decades. Their lives were a relentless cycle of training, discipline, and warfare, bound by an oath, the sacramentum, to Rome and its emperor. They were the apex of ancient military power, feared and respected across the known world. This commitment was absolute, demanding every ounce of a man's physical and mental strength, a loyalty that could not be divided, a devotion Rome considered paramount for its survival and expansion. The transition to this professional army began decades before Augustus, notably with the reforms of Gaius Marius in the late 2nd century BC. Marius opened enlistment to landless citizens, transforming the army from a seasonal militia into a permanent, career-based force. These soldiers served for long terms, often 20 to 25 years, receiving pay, spoils, and the promise of land or a pension upon retirement. This professionalization brought immense military advantages, but also created a new social class, men whose identity was almost entirely tied to the legions. They were the state's instruments, and the state, in turn, sought to ensure their complete allegiance. It was Emperor Augustus, following the devastating Roman civil wars, who formally codified the marriage ban for active soldiers. Emerging from decades of internal strife, Augustus sought stability, order, and an army whose loyalty was beyond question. He understood that a soldier with a family back home might hesitate, might prioritize domestic concerns over the brutal demands of war or unquestioning obedience to the emperor. The ban, implemented around 13 BC, was a calculated move to sever potential emotional ties that could divert a soldier's focus, ensuring that his life, his very being, belonged wholly and unequivocally to Rome. The primary, unyielding reason for the marriage ban was to cultivate undivided allegiance. Rome demanded absolute, uncompromised loyalty from its soldiers. A married man with a wife and children had powerful personal stakes that could conflict with the brutal, often ruthless demands of military service. Would he readily march to a distant frontier, knowing his family faced hardship? Would he stand firm in a desperate battle, or might his thoughts turn to those he left behind? By removing this domestic anchor, Augustus aimed to create an army of solitary individuals whose sole focus, whose every ambition, was tied to the legions and the glory of Rome. Beyond loyalty, practical considerations played a significant role. Imagine moving entire legions, tens of thousands of men, across vast distances if each soldier brought a family. The logistical nightmare would be insurmountable, slowing military movements to a crawl and straining supply lines beyond breaking point. Furthermore, the state would bear the immense financial burden of supporting these families, providing housing, food, and other necessities, particularly for those stationed at distant, often barren outposts. The ban was an efficiency measure, streamlining military operations and conserving precious imperial resources for the core mission, conquest and control. Despite the ban, human nature persisted. Soldiers found ways to form relationships, often with local women in settlements that sprang up outside military camps, known as canabi or vici. These unofficial partners, or concubinae, and their children lived in a legal limbo, unrecognized by Roman law. While the soldiers themselves could not legally marry, these unions were often stable and enduring, creating de facto families that the Roman authorities unofficially tolerated. This complex reality highlights the tension between the strict letter of the law and the everyday needs and desires of men serving long, arduous terms away from home. These unofficial unions often produce children, known as peregrini if their mother was a non-citizen. These children also faced an ambiguous status. They were not Roman citizens by birth, despite having a Roman father, and their future was uncertain. They often grew up within the shadow of the legions, many eventually following their fathers into military service. This created a peculiar irony. The ban intended to simplify the soldier's life instead complicated the lives of generations, creating a semi-legal military caste whose existence was a testament to the enduring human need for family, even in the face of imperial decree. For the Roman soldier, the ban meant delaying the dream of a legal family until retirement. After 25 arduous years of service, a veteran would finally receive his discharge, often with a generous pension, a grant of land, and, crucially, Roman citizenship if he didn't already possess it. Only then could he legally marry and establish a legitimate family. This distant promise was a powerful incentive, binding soldiers to their service, knowing that true domesticity and social integration awaited them, but only after their duty to Rome had been fully discharged. It was a life deferred, a sacrifice made for the glory of the empire. 2 centuries after Augustus' ban, the political and social landscape of Rome had shifted dramatically. By the late 2nd century AD, the empire faced relentless external pressures, and the army's morale had waned. It took a soldier emperor, Septimius Severus, to finally repeal the ban. Severus, who rose to power through the legions and intimately understood their needs and grievances, recognized the detrimental effect of the policy. In 197 AD, he issued a landmark decree allowing active Roman soldiers to legally marry. This was not a sign of weakness, but a pragmatic recognition that a contented, integrated army was a more effective and loyal army. The repeal of the marriage ban marked a significant turning point. It fostered greater stability and integration for soldiers, allowing them to establish legitimate families earlier in their careers. This not only boosted morale, but also helped to stabilize military communities and encourage recruitment from within the ranks, as sons of soldiers could now grow up in legally recognized households. While the core mission of the Roman army remained unchanged, its human face was forever altered. The empire recognized that allowing its defenders a fundamental human right could, in fact, strengthen their resolve and loyalty, proving that even the most formidable power must sometimes adapt to the evolving needs of its people. The 2-century ban on marriage for Roman soldiers is a powerful testament to the empire's ruthless pragmatism and its unwavering demand for absolute loyalty. It was a policy born of necessity in an age of conquest, creating an army singularly focused on the state. Yet, the eventual repeal under Septimius Severus speaks to the enduring strength of human connection and the empire's capacity for adaptation. It reminds us that even the mightiest civilizations grapple with the delicate balance between duty and desire, a timeless struggle that shaped the lives of countless forgotten legionaries and the very course of history.